Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. We're going to talk about something fun today. It's going to be Craig Wright and Ira Kleiman, and they're kicking off what's called the Bitcoin Trial of the Century in Miami. I think it's a clown fiesta, but at the center is potential ownership of 1.1 million BTC, which I don't think either party will actually end up owning. I'm not exactly sure how the judge or the court plans to settle all of this. Craig Wright is this, as we all know, is the self-proclaimed Satoshi Nakamoto. I don't actually think he is Satoshi Nakamoto. He's given me no evidence to show me that he's Satoshi Nakamoto, and his crappy little project known as BSV has basically tanked right through the floor because no one cares about it. No one's actually building on it. So the civil trial of Ira Kleiman versus Craig Wright kicked off in Miami on Monday that may provide insight into some of Wright's claims that he is Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin. He is an Australian computer scientist and early cryptocurrency pioneer. I personally think Satoshi Nakamoto is actually Hal Finney, has been claiming to be the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin since 2016. Notice that's, like 7 years after Bitcoin was actually made. The suit posts that Wright did not act alone. So what Kleiman's actually hoping is that Wright actually is pronounced to be Satoshi Nakamoto, because if he is, and he was partnered with Dave Kleiman, then Dave Kleiman and his estate is entitled to half of all the Bitcoins. According to Ira Kleiman, his late brother David, a fellow computer expert and longtime friend of Wright, was co-creator of Bitcoin and is entitled to a share of the trove of Bitcoin currently valued at $66 billion. That's a lot of money because that's $33 billion. Probably roughly half. So what this suit alleges is that David Kleiman and Craig Wright formed a partnership and established an entity called Wright and Kleiman Info Defense Research LLC that they used to mine Bitcoin and organize their intellectual property. Now, before Kleiman died, CSW had always referred to Kleiman as a partner, but after he died, that actually changed. As evidence actually shows, he started distancing himself from Kleiman and saying that even though they were close, he was never really a partner. So right here, Roche told the jury that after David Kleiman's death, Wright's story began to change. He continued to call David his partner, but started to distance himself and claimed that David had transferred their shared intellectual property into Wright's possession. Now, without a will, that's very, very hard to validate. So the thing is, I think the paper trail will actually turn against Craig Wright. So Wright's defense seemed to largely hinge on two factors: his diagnosis with autism spectrum disorder and his lack of a written agreement between him and Kleiman. But if you actually follow the paper trail, that might actually not be the case. And the thing is, if he's diagnosed with, even if he is, on the autism spectrum, I don't really know if that would really have anything to do with the other guy, Kleiman, still having 50% if they were partners. In her opening statement, counsel for Wright claimed that Wright's autism made him difficult to communicate with, overly literal and combative. Rather than pushing back against the veracity of the plaintiff's timeline, McGovern instead attempted to convince jury that Wright and Ira Kleiman simply have a different understanding of the word partner. But if the thing is, if they formed the partnership LLC together, then technically they should have both joint custody. So there's problems with his argument. So, however, the most interesting part of this is not Craig Wright or Ira Kleiman themselves. It's actually the wallet. And the thing is, I don't think either of them actually had access to it. Craig Wright has had multiple chances to prove that he's actually Satoshi Nakamoto and that he actually has access to the wallet, and he's failed every single time. He's basically trying to buy time, it looks like, for Calvin Ayre to basically to try to break the wallet and get in the coins, because he has actually not been able to provide any kind of private address or anything. He's been able to provide several public addresses that show where the coins are, but that doesn't mean anything because anyone can come up with public addresses. Those aren't secret. It's the private keys that are the key, and he's not been able to turn any of those up. So what's hilarious about this is that if Craig Wright is determined to not be Satoshi Nakamoto, that would actually favor him in the case, because then he doesn't own the Bitcoins and there's nothing to really fight over. However, his ego would never actually let him say that he's not Satoshi Nakamoto. So the thing is, if it's actually determined that he is Satoshi Nakamoto, he would probably owe half the $66 billion. Now, but the funny thing is, he doesn't have access to the $66 billion. I still think it's Hal Finney, that actually has access to that, and he died, so no one might actually have the keys to that. In fact, Hal might have not given it to anyone because remember, his body is cryogenically frozen. So if they ever find the cure for ALS, unfreeze him and then cure him, he still wants the $66 billion or whatever that he actually had. So I personally don't think Craig Wright actually has access to this, which will be hilariously funny if the court says he still owes Kleiman's $33 billion. Because he might be pretty rich, but he is not $33 billion rich. I don't think Calvin Ayre is $33 billion rich either. And I'm not really sure how he actually plans to pay back the amount of money if he's actually determined that he owes Kleiman half the stash of Bitcoin, because in his failure to prove that he actually has access to the stash of Bitcoin and the failure to provide any kind of private key or any kind of evidence whatsoever that he actually has access to Satoshi's wallet and making excuse after excuse after excuse, I am convinced that he is actually not Satoshi Nakamoto and he doesn't have access to the wallet because he has yet to prove otherwise. And because of that, I don't really know how he planned to pay off the $33 billion that he doesn't actually have. So stay tuned for that because I think that is the most interesting part of this. So let me know what you think, like and subscribe, and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.